Welcome to Coleman Certified SBA Training Office Hours Dog Day of Summer Edition. Lance, welcome.
Bob, I've got lunch cooking on the sidewalk outside today.
Hey, we appreciate you all joining us. We're going to make this informative for you. We respect your time. Let's some shout-outs. Alicia, welcome. Lance is our new loan closer training students. So welcome to you. Welcome to you all for SBA 1. Lance, we're completing, what, week 3?
Week 3. Hey, Bob, I want to say hi to my friends from Customers Bank because that's where Alicia is at, and say hi to Kevin for me.
Very good. And Lance is coming to Southern California. He's going to be in the house. We're going to actually have a live office hours in a couple of weeks, and we're going to finish up the SBA 1 filming sessions. Lance, how do you feel about the course so far?
I'm really excited about it, Bob, because so many SBA 1 trainings that SBA has done has been from a very, I guess, theoretical perspective. We're actually showing how to put loans, different types of loans, into SBA 1. And you guys can take that training video and watch it as many times as you want to help you walk through and successfully put loans into SBA 1.
And you can pick up the phone and talk to the instructor directly. You can send him an email. You can send me an email. So we try to be very receptive to making sure you become the experts. I just saw another notice, Lance. Now they're saying July 31st for GP loans, for if you're a PLP lender. I mean, the date's all over the board.
Yeah, I mean, SBA is going to push, every time SBA provides a new platform for their participant lenders, the intent is for that to be the way you submit or that to be the way you service your loans. And they start out by making it optional, but guys, the importance of getting training in SBA 1 is there will be a day very soon when it's not optional on any type of SBA.
I saw a memo said July 31st, so I don't know. So this is the format for those of you who are new, Alicia. We talk about what I've written about for the week. We talk about all the classes, and we bring up some poll questions and answer your questions directly. So news of the week, as I said, dog days, secondary market was in my coverage this week. Premiums are starting to creep down a little bit. I don't think it's tragic. I don't think it's of a concern. It's all what we expected. And the 7(a) prepayments now are back up over to 8%. And if all a prepayment means is the loan is prepaid, either by a guaranteed purchase by SBA or it was paid off in a refinance. So that's, go ahead, Lance.
I had a conversation with one of the secondary market buyers of SBA loans yesterday, and we were talking about this. Part of the reason I think that premiums are dropping just a little bit, it's exactly what you said, Bob. So many SBA lenders are on vacation now. The activity is a little slower than it was earlier in the year, and they have fewer loans to choose from, so they don't have to be so competitive.
Let's go to the poll questions, Joseph. These are from a webinar that we did. That one, I don't know where that one came from. That must be a Lance question.
That's a Lance question, Bob.
On SBA refinancing for same institution debt, you're even trying to trip me up on the acronyms. Do you always put the loan transcript showing 3 years of the life of the loan payment history? Yes or no?
And Bob, I asked this question because this is something I've been going through with some of the lenders in my bank. They don't want to have to gather the information. Well, I'm glad everybody's doing that because it is required. And for those loan closers, and we have a new loan closer with us today, if you're doing an SBA loan and there's the refinance of same institution debt, there are a couple things. First of all, you can't do it as a PLP loan. It's going to have to be processed a different way. But secondly, if you're doing it, you're going to have transcripts for 3 years or the life of the loan. If the loan's only been on the books for 12 months, you need 12 months showing on-time payments.
What is the definition of on-time, Lance?
Well, less than 30 days.
Very good, very good. Next poll question. Lance, why are you asking what our travel plans are? Flago's in Florida, Mid-America is in Houston, America East is in Philadelphia. Those are the three I know about. I think there's one in Detroit coming up as well. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, first of all, the reason for the question is to encourage you to ask. Ask your SBA department manager, ask your chief lending officer, and see, Bob, they need to ask the question because Flago, America East, Mid-America are all exceptional opportunities, and their training conferences in other parts of the country for you to get additional information about SBA lending. So I encourage you to look these up. I mean, Bob, in their, if you look at any publication, Bob and Coleman, the Coleman report, will have a list of those conferences typically at the bottom of some of their email information.
Training is very important for Lance and I, but we certainly do not profess to have a monopoly. We don't want a monopoly. We want you to become the experts. We know what we offer is very specialized and very in-depth, but there's a lot of good learning opportunities out there. I concur with Lance. Try to go and visit one of those. Network with your peers. Meet the local SBA officials.
And Bob, I would encourage anybody coming to Mid-America in Houston. I'm going to be there, and for the first time in 10 years, Bob, I chose not to be a speaker because I wanted an opportunity to interact with other participant lenders. So if you're there, find me, let's share a beverage, let's talk SBA lending.
Next poll question, Joseph. Lance, we've been asking this question for a year now. The numbers keep creeping up, but you're beating the drum on this, aren't you?
I continue to want to know if I see some movement in terms of institutions using SBA 1 and institutions having multiple people using it.
Yeah, unfortunately that's consistent with the numbers that we have. At least now people are, we did this 6 months ago and half the crowd wasn't even signed up for SBA 1, so at least we're moving in the right direction.
Well, and one thing I want to encourage all of our participants, it can't be just one. It will overwhelm you at some point when all PLP, Express, and GP loans have to go through SBA 1. It could potentially overwhelm you, so it's time to get someone else, more people than just one, set up using SBA 1.
Next poll question, Joseph. We did a webinar yesterday on insurance. Part of the reason why we consolidated the office hours is instead of trying to be specific, we just said, hey, let's open it up, and you may not, and you'll learn something, either you're a closer, that may be in underwriting, and the thought behind this. And so don't be shy, don't be afraid if you don't know the answer. This is a learning tool. And this is a question I asked, and I want to know how much hazard insurance is required by the SBA on a piece of commercial real estate property where that property is the primary collateral. And very good. 80% of you got the correct answer. It's replacement cost. Very good. You did better than my webinar attendees yesterday, Lance.
That's excellent. Well, it's important to know, Bob, even though I didn't get the pleasure of participating with you, that having appropriate insurance coverage is part of care and preservation of collateral on an SBA loan. So if you want to avoid a repair, you better get the right kind of insurance. This is all about the
perfecting the SBA 7A guarantee. I think we have 2 more poll questions. I'm asking the same question for equipment, where those fixtures and furnitures and fixtures and equipment, the stuff that's bolted to the walls, the computers, what do we want to insure that for? Again, replacement cost. If the loan's $100,000 and it's $150,000 worth of equipment, we need to have that extra $50,000 to make sure the operation continues. So that's why we want to go replacement cost. And I believe, excuse me, one more question. And this is a question near and dear to your heart, Lance. Under its care and preservation of collateral standards, SBA will allow you to pay the life insurance premiums of a defaulted borrower and ultimately share the expense per its guaranteed pro rata share. Will SBA allow us to do that, Lance?
They will, but you have to use prudent lending standards. You have to evaluate the situation. They will, in fact, allow you to use those premiums as part of your care and preservation expenses. But, you know, Bob, you have to ask yourself the question, if you have a $100,000 SBA loan with $100,000 worth of life insurance and you've got a 22-year-old principal who's in good health, it may or may not make sense.
Well, that life insurance is probably going to be $150 a year. So yeah, do that because you don't want that person.
It's a slam dunk. But the question becomes, let's say you have
it's an old guy like you or I.
Yeah. And let's say well, Bob, I had a stroke 8 years ago and I'm fine, but right after that, life insurance would have been excessively expensive. So it's a prudent lending decision, but it's certainly an expense that if you make that prudent decision and choose to keep it in force, that SBA will allow you to count it. Now, what's the fear? If you don't do it, SBA could repair you for the full amount of the life insurance.
I think probably will repair you, won't they? I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, assuming the borrower passes away, and I had a fellow banker, we were talking about a liquidation case, and they said, well, we have life insurance, maybe you'll pass it. That's not very nice, Bob. He was looking for a full
I would look to force place that insurance. You're allowed to do consider that in your toolbox. Okay, let's go to the email questions very quick. Lance, when you click on the folder for SBA 1, there are 5 options. What am I selecting? Which one am I doing, Lance?
Well, and a lot of it depends. You need to be talking with your authorizing official about this. In most cases, a processor is going to choose processor, submit to E-Tran, and underwriter. I just signed up one of my fellow bankers at my bank, and I want them to have access to all 5. So my response is, unless there's some objection by management, you want access to all functions.
And you and I have discussed this. I believe everyone in the organization should have access to the Paris scorecard. We'll talk about that throughout the rest of this year. That's becoming more and more important as a management tool. That's my personal preference, but
Bob, I share that information with everybody in my bank because it's changed the kind of loans that are being brought in as I share that information. And improve.
Guys, this is why we can't do all startup restaurants. Boom. Here's this is in the score. Next question. In an era of okay, this came from yesterday's question, Lance. I don't think you even saw this. I think it's a great question. In the era of concern over privacy of medical information, should a lender require that entire life insurance policy, disability policy in its file?
That is a fantastic question. It's not covered in the SOP, but I'll tell you what I do as a best practice. I get the whole policy.
It's split. The insurance brokers are saying all you need is that piece of paper that assigns the proceeds to the lender. You don't need the whole file. I'm agnostic on this one. I could go either way. I have not heard of SBA repairing a guarantee, and that's what we want to focus on. We want to put this all into context because they only have an assignment. As long as they get the proceeds, they're fine.
Being an expert at preparing purchase demand kits, they don't require that you send the policy in, just the assignment.
But nothing wrong with getting it.
But Bob, I collect the whole thing.
There you go. Email question from Christine. I think this has to do with the USDA B&I loans. We did a webinar on this last week, and I assume that the takeaway is SBA, you have a maximum of $5 million. B&I, we can go up to $50 million. You can sell properties, historic, we're talking hospitality, hotels. You can go to sell it to family members. They just need to be at arm's length. We need to have an appraisal, but we're allowing that to happen in the B&I program. So, but yes, it needs to be a complete change of ownership. Okay? So why don't we do this in our Dog Day edition, Lance? Why don't we conclude it here, and we'll see you all next week.
Good deal.
That concludes today's training session. Office hours.
Have a great weekend.